Good afternoon, everybody. Today we have with us Crystal Leugers, who is the Chief Programming Officer for the Children's Home of Northern Kentucky. Crystal, welcome and thanks for giving us a few moments of your time.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm really excited about the opportunity.
Well, you know, a Children's Home has obviously operated in this community for many, many years here in Covington. And we could talk just about the history for probably an hour, but maybe before we talk about the topics of dealing with COVID with your clients, maybe first off, if you could talk a little bit about yourself and about what is the Children's Home of Northern Kentucky.
Sure. Thank you so much for that question, because you're right. You know, we've been around since 1882, and I think a lot of people still think of us as an orphanage or a boys' home, but we're a behavioral health care provider. We still have residential services in our continuum of care. Some of those are for children in state's custody. Several others can be accessed by the community through their insurance company. But a big portion of our services actually are in outpatient now. So in our outpatient care, we can provide individual and family therapy and group therapy to people with mental health issues, substance use issues, and we really have a specialization in trauma. In terms of my background a little bit, I've been with Children's Home of Northern Kentucky for 8 years. Started out as a residential therapist, so residential is a little bit near and dear to my heart. But I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I'm a licensed clinical alcohol and drug counselor, and I'm really happy to be at Children's Home and to be able to watch the evolution of our services over a period of time.
Well, what story that is. A lot of successes, and I'm sure you wish that the organization was not even needed in our community, but maybe speak to what does a typical client today look like for the Children's Home, if there is such a typical client?
You know, we've had so many changes, as you noted, that previously when I first started, you know, kind of our core competency was in working in adolescent behavioral health care and their families. And then in communicating with court partners and school partners, they were saying, okay, what do we do about working with our elementary youth? And so we were like, okay, the needs of the community are changing and we're going to respond to those. And then we had several parents who were saying, okay, I would like to go to you guys as my behavioral health care partner as opposed to maybe somebody else because we already have a relationship. So we work with people across the lifespan, but I would say, you know, the majority of our services in outpatient care are probably provided to kids anywhere between, I'd say, 10 to 17. It's kind of our primary population. And they come through the door for any number of issues. We have children who are anxious about college applications and having difficulty sleeping, to children who really from the standpoint of, you know, adverse childhood experiences or accumulation of traumas, have lots and are living in adverse community environments that there's kind of collective traumas going on in their community. So like you kind of acknowledged, there's a whole breadth of clients that we serve.
And, you know, the term you use, adverse child experiences, I've been learning that term over the past number of years and realizing, wow, there could not be many more adverse things than many families are having to deal with COVID and the stresses of that. Of course, abuse and addiction are off the charts in families, but maybe speak to the issue of what you've seen different with maybe clients now dealing with COVID.
Absolutely. You know, I think that, like you had acknowledged, you know, families are already dealing with a number of stressors. And then I think we can all say that the period of COVID-19 has just put an immense amount of pressure on families. And then we don't have access to things that typically build resiliency for us or help us to heal, which is social supports. So connecting with people, you know, face to face, spending time in a gathering. If you experience a grief or loss during this time, you know, those typical grief rituals might look totally different because a funeral might only allow for 10 people or 20 people. And so, you know, we've been seeing people's typical concerns really compounded by, you know, the collective trauma, economic recession, and, you know, issues with finding jobs. So I feel like, you know, the issues that we typically see, I think, have only become more acute.
Yeah. And how many typical year, how many individual kids, adolescents do you typically see in a given year?
Yeah, so last fiscal year, 3,000 people were impacted by our services. So our circle of relevancy has really increased beyond residential care in terms of our ability to connect with people through school partnerships, court referrals, and outpatient services.
And now when you look at COVID, the stressors, these issues, and hopefully we all want to come out of this and making sure people are healthy and successful at the end of it. Are there things you're looking at and you see this is a specific area that is really a specific need that you all have had to step up? Are you trying to, is it something you're doing online? Are you just trying to do socially distanced counseling? What does it look like today under COVID?
Yeah, I appreciate you asking that. I've watched several of the other conversations, and it was really validating to hear from Brighton Center and Women's Crisis Center, who just noted that they had to pivot quickly and turn on a dime, and that's been our experience, having to respond really, really quickly. And I don't think we would have been able to maintain our relevancy since 1882 if we hadn't been able to do that. But we launched a telehealth platform really, really quickly. And actually, Women's Crisis Center noted this as well. Initially, things were really, really quiet. And we knew that the needs of the community hadn't gotten any easier. And so we knew there was a need out there and people weren't reaching out to us. So we launched a free service called 10 Minutes with a Therapist. And that's, it's pretty self-explanatory. So you can reach out via phone and it's 818-44-YES-CHNK. So you can call that number and be connected with a therapist and have 10 minutes. And we wanted to limit, I think sometimes in reaching out to a therapist, somebody thinks, okay, it's not that bad, or okay, I don't want to call and have to give my insurance information and give all this information. I just want to talk to somebody. I need support right now. And that's what, you don't have to give insurance information. You get connected with someone really quickly, to offer some social support or maybe some coping skills. And then after that, make a determination as to whether or not, okay, I connected with someone here. I want to continue this relationship by possibly participating in some individual therapy or some telehealth services or what have you. So that's really what we're trying to do right now to respond to the community's needs.
What a great service to offer. And hopefully, I guess, all down deep, we realized that there is no perfect person. There's no person without stressors, and there's no person who doesn't have to figure out how you deal with these challenges, right? So great opportunity for people to reach out to you. If there was one more thing, even setting aside COVID, Crystal, that you wish that people knew about the Children's Home in Northern Kentucky, what would it be?
I think that we have kind of become in some ways, a best kept secret, and that's the exact opposite of what we want to be. So a lot of people are still correlating us with the boys' home, but we've really expanded our competency areas. We have developed kind of a way of being in the world that I think sets us apart, and that's called the sanctuary model. And it's shifting. It's trauma-informed care, which I know is a buzzword for people, but it's really shifting when you're looking at someone's behavior from the idea of, okay, what is wrong with them, to what has happened to this person and how can I understand and help to heal and build resiliency. And that, all of our 120 employees are trained, whether they're in maintenance or they're directly working with the clients or they're in technical support or a therapist. We're all trained in this model of building resiliency and hope and healing. I mean, it's something I'm really proud of, and I think that it's something that we want to infuse in the community in order to provide those services to Kentucky.
Well, it's very aspirational, and obviously you all are doing that on a day-to-day basis, so we really appreciate that, and thanks for giving me a few minutes of your time today, and I wish you best of luck.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate this.